everybody. So I just learned that the audio I was originally recording is gone for some reason. It didn't save. Now I'm mad. So I'm gonna be even more mad than the original rant I had. But anyways, so the rant I had was on economic liberalism and economic socialism. So obviously I'm on the economic left, right? Now obviously I'm not a socialist, as many of you know. Obviously when I say that, I'm mainly trying to economic liberalism on the basis of certain aspects, and obviously that doesn't relate to socialism or democratic socialism. It's not the same. Recently, somebody asked me if I was a democratic socialist or a socialist, when because I said I was economically left wing. Obviously, I wasn't too happy because obviously I'm neither. I don't relate to either. I'm obviously just economic liberal. Obviously, I keep more of a sense of, like I have belief in unions. I believe that terrorists, the main thing is, I'm just not totally socialist. I mean, obviously there are some good aspects of socialism, like I agree with and I don't agree with. Like I certainly think that there are some aspects like free healthcare would be awesome. But, I feel like that could be too lofty, and I don't know how we would implement that into the United States. But at the same time, there are also issues like, like UBI. UBI really interests me at the end of the day, because obviously, like, it'd be nice to have, like, a system where everybody is universal basic income, but it just doesn't work that way. As much as I'd like to have a more, base social aspect, it's just not how life works, unfortunately. But, those ideas are appealing, and well, I definitely think we could take some aspects from socialism, like that. I think that there are other issues like where, like, if you take somebody like Mamdani when he says something like, "Oh, we need to freeze rent," and how we need to do all these things, like the government needs to have owned grocery stores. That's a terrible idea. Obviously, a government-owned grocery store would never work. Obviously, we need to be more focused on aspects of trade. And this is how, again, these ideas are, and like ideas of economic Marxism are obviously not as founded as one might think. At the same time, when you say, "Oh yeah, we could totally implement some socialist aspects in life," it just doesn't seem viable as much as people would think it'd be. So that's why I'm not a socialist or a Marxist or any sort of manifesto of that sort. But I am economically left. Like I said, I'm now obviously this is how something like Britain. This is how Britain got powerful. They were balancing trade. They were balancing. They were using things that were just not at all just one economic policy. I mean, you're looking at policies like they're like just how they were exploiting China, how they were doing this. They weren't just fully focusing on trade protections. They weren't just focusing on free trade. They weren't just focusing on getting concessions. They were obviously pulling a deck of cards, and they were exploiting, using trade to exploit China for to get opium, to get these things. And this is how China expanded. But if you look at something like the USSR, I mean, it's a very different story when they use a mixed economy, and that's definitely where I stand, mixed economy more. Because obviously, while capitalism is a failure, in my opinion, I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a free marketist. I'm not a neoconservative. I'm not any of these. I mean, I'm not a corporatist, even though some of these ideas are nice. And I have some agreements and disagreements on the basis. And a lot of these have their lofty isms, where it's just like doesn't sound like make any sense whatsoever. It's just kind of garbage, and it's well, hey, we could implement something like this, and hey, I do agree with this, and hey, that does actually make sense. Like we can actually definitely, you know, in that sort, and that's definitely a difference. But when you're looking at the USSR, for example, for how they were implementing mixed economy, obviously the reason it didn't work out is because they were kind of founded on communism and that sort. So when the government is, basically evil and they're trying to, liberalize more, they were, the people were not happy and they took the advantage to get rid of it. And this just wasn't founded at all because it was Russia. It was, communist Russia. It wasn't gonna work out at the end of the day. We need a mixed economy. Now, obviously, the reason it didn't work for Russia is the reason it didn't work general, but I mean, we used a mixed economy. Like I was saying, like with Britain, they were using mixed economic strategies to gain power and to gain influence and to get more powerful. And that's how they expanded. And they were definitely expanding by conquering the New World too, but they were also using strategies in the New World like mercantilism or free trade or using tariffs and exploiting their European neighbors. Obviously, they were able to expand in that sort. But at the same time, they're for us, we also used to have a market economy, used to do pretty well with that sort. I mean, if you look at just the past, I mean, we were doing pretty well economically, using some different like strategies for expanding from like the 1800s until like the early 1900s when it just became the duality between the Democrats and Republicans. When the Republicans finally became neoconservative and the Democrats became or economically left, and they were liberal for a long time. Now they're more not. I mean, they're more. I mean, I don't even know what the Democrats are today, but they're definitely not socialist, and they're definitely not economically liberal. They're just terrible. I mean, I don't even like trusting them with the economy is like trusting a baby with a gun, genuinely. That's why, obviously, don't support on that. But the aspects of being economically left wing, like I am, um, there's definitely to the point where we need to go to that, and that's where I support more is being economically left, but in a mixed sense, like a house of cards, or not a house of cards, a deck of cards. That was what we need to use. We could call it that, and that's probably what I'm gonna call it now when people ask me, "What are you economically?" I just use a deck of cards, economic left. Okay, so deck of cards of the economic left. That's how I describe it. That's how when people ask, that's what I'm gonna say. Obviously, as confusing as that might sound, I feel like that is probably the most descriptive, and that's probably what we need to use. And that's the thing that kind of irritates me more is because people say like we need to be neocons, or we need to be socialist, or we need to be democratic socialist, or we need to be communist, or we need to be this or that. Also, do you like my skin? My skin looks really nice. I know. It doesn't look so nice. It's so cool. It's Pilsudski moment. Anyways. Anyways, so thank you for watching me rant while playing Minecraft and slaving villagers and all this. Originally, it was in one take, it was in one thing, but it didn't pan out because my audio didn't, was corrupted or whatever. I don't know what happened. I lost it. It really sucks. I'm just checking now. Yeah, it is working. Okay, so I didn't lose all this, but yeah, we need just an economic kind of sort of that sense, and yeah, that's what I support. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next one, and peace out.